Why hello you lovely little peppercorns, Contusion Lee here, and today I'm going to be taking a look at 11 games that I personally wish had sequels. First and foremost, we'll start with the boring one, which is a post-it note. I have a stack of games over here, I don't know if they're on camera or not, but I have a post-it note that says Xenoclash on it because it's digital only, or at least the second game is digital only. But Xenoclash and its sequel, Xenoclash 2, are two underrated modern games in my opinion. This weird, wacky world where everybody solves their, misgivings with their fists. Like if you slight someone even slightly, they're gonna, get in your face and you're gonna have a bout of fisticuffs, as they would say in the Xenoclash universe. Nah, just kidding. They're just all about brawling all the time for any reason, and one day you could be kicking the shit out of somebody and the next day they could be helping you kick the shit out of somebody else. Grudges aren't a thing in the Xenoclash universe, but fighting is. Fighting is everything. I can't really describe what makes these games so special without spoiling a lot of them, so if you've played them, you probably know what I'm talking about, but hands down, this has the best, first-person brawling combat I've ever seen, which, to be fair, isn't really saying much because there aren't a lot of first-person brawlers out there. Xenoclash and its sequel, Xenoclash 2, are the only games I can think of. And I would love to see a Xenoclash 3. Hopefully we get it one day, because Xenoclash 2 didn't really end on a cliffhanger, but it left a lot of unexplained loose threads. And I think there's a whole aspect of this world that's explored in the story that's yet to be fully fleshed out, and I would really love to see that. Next up, I have one of my personal favorites, which is, of course, Ristar on the Sega Genesis, or Ristar if you prefer. This is, what do I have to say? It's just a fantastic game. Ristar is just this really well done platforming thing where you play as Ristar himself, and he has the ability to grab things with his stretchy arms, and then he headbutts into things with his face. I wish they would have kept making Ristar games. I don't know why they never have, because there are so many people that love this game. It is considered one of the best games on the Sega Genesis. It's actually kind of hard to get on the Sega Genesis. A loose copy of this goes for $50 usually, and an inbox copy goes for almost $200 most of the time, because it was in one of those cardboard shitty packages that Sega did towards the end of the Genesis's life cycle. A sequel to Ristar would be very well appreciated, Sega, so get on that. A game that I've been saying for years deserved a sequel is Pokemon Snap. And I'm, gonna gloss over this a little bit because we actually are getting a Pokemon Snap sequel on the Switch sometime. They haven't really showed any real gameplay. They showed a little teaser trailer for it and let us know that it's currently in development. And I, blew my frickin' shit when I heard that we were getting a sequel to this, because this is, for years, has been my number one game that I think deserved a sequel, and we're finally getting it. I'm hoping that when it comes out, it's going to just be more of the same, but more polished for the modern era, and a lot more of it. I'm really interested to see what they're gonna do with the fact that there's over 800 Pokemon now, possibly even more at the time of making this video, I don't even know. So it will be really nice to see how they incorporate so many Pokemon into something like this. My guess is, they're just gonna pick out the ones that they feel will work best in the world, and I think that's probably gonna be for the best, but I think we're gonna get some crazy Pokemon snapping photography adventures in the future, and I hope we do. Here's another game that I've been wanting a sequel to for years, but at this point, I kinda hope it never happens, just because the people behind it aren't what they used to be. And that game would, of course, be Conker's Bad Fur Day on the Nintendo 64. This is one of my favorite games of all time. It pretty much, defined my, teenage years. I played this game just so much. I've always wanted a sequel to it because I think there's so much more they could do with it. Because, if you don't know, Conker's Bad Fur Day is a satire of the 3D platformers that came out in the N64 and PlayStation era. And I always thought it would be cool if they did the same thing, but as a satire of the 3D platformers that came out as part of the GameCube and PlayStation 2 era. Games like, Vex and Scalar and Dr. Muto and stuff like that. I think that would be really interesting, because the 3D platformers from that era had their own unique feel and quirks to them that I think would fit very well in a Conker's Bad Fur Day universe. But I have zero faith in the people that own the Conker's license and Rare in general these days. Obviously, Microsoft owns Rare, which means they unfortunately own the Conker's Bad Fur Day license. and Microsoft sucks. If they ever do make a sequel to Conker's, I'll probably have to have a Microsoft account to play it like I do with Minecraft now. Thank you, Microsoft. And Rare, they're just not what they were. Like, ever since Microsoft bought them, they just haven't really made anything worthwhile. I know a lot of people like Sea of Thieves. I haven't played it, so maybe it's really good, but they haven't made the kind of games that I want to play for a very long time. And I just don't think there's enough heart or passion for it, and if it ever does come back, it's just going to be a AAA piece of shit. But I'd still like to see it happen at the same time, but I ain't gonna hold my breath. Another one that I'd like to see a sequel to that is something that I've played really recently, and that would be Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. Holy crap, this is one of the most underrated games of all time. I didn't even hear about it until this past spring. I immediately played it, played through all of it. I fucking love this game, and I'm probably gonna do a review of it in the near future, so be on the lookout for that, because holy freaking crap, is this a good game. It was made by Dishonored and Prey 2017 developer Arcane Studios, which I really love their work overall. I wasn't big on Prey, if you've seen my video on it, but overall, I am a gigantic fan of their work, and I love some of the things that they've done. And Dark Messiah, it's the earliest game of theirs that I've personally played. Actually, it might be one of their first games now that I think about it. It just has that Dishonored, Prey feel to it, but in a medieval fantasy world a la Dungeons and Dragons. But the thing that makes this game just go from very good game to the best fucking thing I've ever seen is the fact that you have a dedicated kick button. And oh my god, this thing is so much fun to use, and I get a laugh out of it. Like, the way the animation looks and the way it hits an enemy and the way it always knocks them like a light year back, I laugh my ass off. So like, this is like a 20-hour game. I played through it in like a couple of days, and I was laughing constantly just because of the kick. So if they ever do make a sequel to this, I really hope that there's, you know, they expand upon the kick mechanic in particular, because it is some of the most enjoyable video game slapstick I've ever seen. And the rest of the game is really well done. There's not really much I'd change about it other than just polish it up and make it bigger and better and all that stuff. I think this is a game that has a lot of potential for some sequel stuff. I don't know if it'll ever happen because, you know, this thing says Ubisoft on it, so Ubisoft probably owns the license. I don't know, there might even be some other licensing issues at the time. And also, Arcane Studios only makes, you know, stuff for Bethesda nowadays, and Bethesda is not what they used to be. So if we ever do get a sequel to this game, it will most likely not be made by Arcane Studios. So it could go either way. It could be either really good or it could be really bad. Who knows? We'll find out if we ever get a sequel to this. All right, I'm gonna do a couple of rapid fire ones here because I think that this video is starting to get a little long for what I originally intended. So first up, I want a real sequel to Jak and Daxter. No Jak X Combat Racing doesn't count, and no Jak and Daxter The Final Frontier, or whatever the fuck that game is that nobody even remembers exists. Not even a sequel to Jak 3 in particular, just a, you know, like a reboot of Jak and Daxter would be really nice. I know it will never happen because Naughty Dog is not interested in making this kind of game anymore, and that's unfortunate. Because Jak and Daxter on the PlayStation 2 was some of the best gaming experiences I've ever had, and much like Conker's Bad Fur Day, was a large chunk of my teenage gaming years. So I would love to see a, you know, a real rebirth of Jak and Daxter. Ratchet and Clank still gets some love. I would really like to see Jak and Daxter get some love. I'd like to see a sequel to The Wind Waker. No Phantom Hourglass doesn't count, and no Spirit Tracks doesn't count. I want a full Zelda game, but return to not necessarily this game or be a sequel to this story in particular, but in this style. Like, I've always said that the Link from The Wind Waker is the most expressive and the most well-defined version of Link we've ever gotten, and I think that still holds true to this day. I just, you know, I'm a sucker for the cel-shaded look, but just more than that, like I don't know, the feel and the heart at this game of, you know, like adventuring on and, you know, coming into adulthood and learning like the ways of the world around you, and the way that like the Great Sea, I think it's called, in The Wind Waker, Just seems massive, even to this day, even though I've played this game like I don't know how many freaking times. Like every time I'm out sailing, the world just seems gigantic to me, and I would love to see a sequel to this. Surprisingly, the next one I have is Metroid Other M. If you watch this channel for any length of time, you know that I absolutely despise this game. I think this is a gigantic pile of shit overall, and one of the worst things I've, ever seen come out of the Metroid series. I haven't played Federation Force, but I think that's even pretty benign compared to what this was, because that's a side game, this is a mainline Metroid game, and a direct sequel to Super Metroid, which is, one of the most important games ever made. And it's bad. It's just really bad, but I like the direction they were going in. I think this game had a lot of great ideas. It executed none of them well, but I think if we got a sequel to this, maybe not call it Other M, maybe just, make a game like this, and do it better, and have like Nintendo or Retro Studios or some developer that isn't the Jiggle Physics guys make this. Yeah, I think that a 3D environmental Metroid game that isn't in first person is something I still want to see, and that's why I was so excited for Metroid Other M when it first came out, because I love the Prime games and I love the classic 2D Metroid games, but there's a large chunk of unexplored territory for the Metroid series that this game was, trying to do. And it failed miserably, of course, but I think there's still a lot we could explore with this, idea. And I kind of get the feeling that Nintendo knows that too, but they're trying to approach it slowly because, like the remake of Metroid 2, Samus Returns, that had kind of the same, thing going on. Samus was more combative, not just always shooting all the time. She was much more acrobatic, but it was still presented in 2D. And so I kind of think Nintendo still wants to explore this kind of Metroid idea, but they're maybe a little timid after the reception of this game. I would love to see a third Nights into Dreams game. The original Nights into Dreams on the Sega Saturn and Christmas Nights into Dreams is a fantastic couple of games that I've had so many joyous moments playing, and Journey of Dreams is not that. It's not very good, if I'm being honest. The levels where you play as knights are really fantastic and feel just like a classic game, but that's only about 25% of this. The rest of it is, mini games and fluff and really, really shitty 3D platforming, and the story's really bad, and the voice acting's really bad. Pretty much everything about, and it's on the Wii. Another Nights into Dreams game would be really great. I don't think it's ever gonna happen. Sega, much like Ristar, they don't seem interested in ever returning to this property, and Yuji Naka has, of course, moved on to create, I think it was Balan Company, because they're making Balan Wonderland, which has a character very reminiscent of Knights. But the game is, mostly a 3D platformer, not a Nights into Dreams type game. So we'll probably never see a sequel to Nights into Dreams. I would love to, see that, because it's a cult classic favorite of my own. And then another one on the Wii that I would love to see a sequel to, or even a port, because it was only ever released on the Wii, which, as you all know, is my least favorite console. Okay, maybe not my least favorite console, one of my least favorite consoles, and that would be Zack and Wiki. This is my favorite Wii game, hands down. It doesn't need to be on the Wii, but it controls well. It's like one of the only games on the Wii that I feel actually, uses the Wii's weird control scheme well, because it's a point-and-click adventure game and like a 3D environment, which is not something you ever see. I can't think of a single other three-dimensional point-and-click adventure game. Can you? Point it out to me, because I would love to know about it. And a sequel to it would just be more of the same. More of the same would be great. A point-and-click adventure 3D game, because there's so much you can explore in the point-and-click adventure genre just by adding that extra third dimension that nobody has explored except the Zack and Wiki crew. And I don't understand why, because it's a great idea. Maybe it's just because, point-and-click adventure games aren't very popular these days, but, tell that to someone like Amanita Design that has all their games are point-and-click adventure games, and they're fantastic. So yeah, a sequel or even a port to like PC for Zack and Wiki would be very much appreciated by yours truly. And finally, I have Guitar Man. I absolutely love this game. This is one of my favorite rhythm games of all time, and a sequel to it would be so freaking good, I think. It's just, it has such a unique take on the rhythm genre, and such a unique, batshit crazy world behind it that I don't know why we never got a sequel for this one. Probably because it, sold like garbage and all that. But why isn't there another game that's like, trying to do the same style? Because it just has this musical abstraction to it that is so enjoyable to play. And I think that if we just had more songs for this, like that's all this sequel to this would need to be. It wouldn't even need to reinvent the wheel, just give us more of the same, because this is a fantastic game and all, but it really leaves you wanting more after you play it. And we never got it. So there you go, 11 games that I personally wish had sequels. Let me know down in the comments what are some games that you'd like to see sequels to, and why. Thank you once again to my patron, Aiden King, for suggesting this video topic as part of the Patreon exclusive Q&A, and thank you, of course, to all my other lovely little peppercorns over on patreon.com/Noa Lee. I've been Contusion Lee today, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.